Welcome to the channel. Thank you everyone for tuning in. So on today's video, I have a very special watch review for you guys. I think you're going to absolutely love these watches. These are new releases from Escapement Time. I've got two boxes here, which are two different color options that the watch comes in. And I want to rewind just slightly. I want to bring it back to one of the most iconic releases from AliExpress, and especially from Escapement Time, was the King Seiko homage that they came out with. I don't know, it's been about 2 years or maybe less than that. Now, this watch sold in the thousands, right? It was very popular when it came out. They then released I believe, was it a 35 or a 36 millimeter version with a whole range of different colors. And every time these watches released, they were sold out. I mean, they made, I think, numerous batches. My one, as you can see, the batteries actually stopped running. And that's one of the drawbacks of the Seiko hybrid quartz VH31 movement that this watch featured. It's a 4 tick a second quartz movement. Now, because of the higher beat rate, the battery doesn't last as long. It is one of the drawbacks. I know a lot of people love the VH31 because of that sweep, but the drawback being the battery life only lasts around 2 years or so. Now, this version is another King Seiko homage. It's actually much smaller than the previous one. Let me just take them out the box for you guys, and let me show you these watches a lot closer. Now, I saw these watches about, I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember exactly when I ordered it, but all in all, as soon as I saw them on Escapement Time store, while I was browsing AliExpress, no questions asked, went straight to the seller, requested two. Actually paid, I think, 50% or 60% of the price value, because I have reviewed watches from Escapement Time before, so they do kind of look after me. And both watches, I mean, even on full price, they're not expensive at all. So I've got a gilt version and a silver version. Now, there is a slight difference in the dial as well. The silver version, you've got more of a enamel white style dial, or slightly silvery. But with the gold one, you do have a slightly creamier dial. It's not that creamy. It's just a slight hue different to the one in silver, but it does match the golden hour markers and handset really well. Specs wise, it is full stainless steel. You've got a really nice box style sapphire crystal. The watch is 50 meters water resistance rated. It does have a push pull crown and a screw down case back. And you also have another quartz movement in this, but this time it's a Miyota 2S60 quartz movement. I'll go into a bit more detail on the movement a little bit later on in the review. Now, with regard to dimensions, as I mentioned, this watch is smaller. The diameter comes in at 35 millimeters with a thickness of 11 millimeters, a lug to lug of 41.5 millimeters. That's probably by far the most compact watch I've reviewed. 18 millimeters on the lug width, an overall weight of just 45 grams on the supplied leather strap. I'll definitely be interested to see how this weighs on a wrist. Hopefully it doesn't wear too small. But in terms of straight out of the box, you know, the watch in hand, it definitely strikes you as something very beautiful indeed. Bags of character. I really love how they've designed it in line with the King Seiko that is quite popular. It's got the same sort of angles, same case shape, really high quality hour markers and hands. So with that said, let's go a bit closer and look at some of the defining features on this King Seiko homage from Escapement Time. Now, the features on the dial help make this watch come across as so understated. The watch is just so well put together. The dial has a mixture of printed and applied features. You've got the Escapement Time text just below the 12 in that highly stylized font. And I really like what they've done just above the 6. They haven't gone with quartz or automatic or whatever. They've gone with Chinese text. Now, I don't know what it says. It may well say quartz or the water resistance rating. So I'm asking all the Chinese viewers out there, or anybody who recognizes this text, please let me know in the comment section what it actually says. But the reason I like it is because they are fully acknowledging the roots. You know, this watch was produced in China, and, you know, it's definitely something that they should be proud of and also honor, you know, where it's made. And as well as that, you've got the applied features now. Now, with regards to the hour markers, these are baton shaped, highly polished 3D, and you've got 3 facets on there, which again are very well polished. I don't see any kind of defects on the macro shots. You've also got applied date window at the 3 o'clock, polished date frame, and matte beveled edges on the inside. Gives the dial a very high quality feel. Now, the star of the show absolutely is the handset they've used. The level of micro detailing, the crispness of those hands, the sharpness is just something amazing, and it really does stand out against that rather simple dial. The handset does have coarse linear brushing through the center, and you've got these highly polished beveled edges, you know, coming across, giving you a almost diamond cut appearance. Very sharp and well defined hands. Definitely stands out against, you know, these plainer dials. Just, you could look at this watch all day. Now, stepping away from the dial, let's have a look at the case. You do have a polished bezel. It does have a very nice slope on there. You've got a fully polished case as well, so you can see just some of the angles which are present, which is a nod to the King Seiko. This is homaging. Very well done, highly polished, almost polished a little too well. And the reason I say that is if you look at the lugs, there is a slight little transition there on some of the angles, and I really feel a different kind of finishing would have helped kind of define this case a bit more. In my eyes, with a fully polished case like this, it is lacking just a bit of definition because I can't see those amazing angles that are present. If you look at the older model, the first King Seiko homage that they did, but bring that back on camera, you can see just on those edges of the lugs, they were brushed in a linear fashion, which helped kind of divide that transition from polished to brushed. And I wish they kind of kept that on this style because I really do want to see, again, that definition. I want to see the K shape very clearly. However, the polishing has been done to a high degree. There's no sharp edges on there. I did want to wear gloves while I handle this, but then I just decided not to. But so you'll see a lot of fingerprints on this beautifully polished case. The crown is a nice size, 5.5 millimeters. Does allow it to remain functional. As I said, it is only push and pull, but I've got no issues actually gripping that and, you know, using that to set the time, etc. Moving on to the case back, by far one of my favorite features of this watch. As you can see, it's definitely a nod to the King Seiko. You've got the little gold emblem in the center. Now, while the King Seiko's is actually placed on, this is kind of subset. But yeah, it's done nicely. There's no sharp edges in there. Beautiful brushing on the outside of the case back. It is a screw down case back. You've got the specification engraved there, China stamped there, which I really like. But just that gold and how it reflects against the light is beautiful. Again, let me know what that text says, guys. Does it say escapement time? I just want to know what it says, but it looks great. Moving on to the movement and function of the watch. So as I said, it is the Miyota 2S60. Now, there are a couple of interesting things about this movement. The first thing is the battery life. The battery life is 10 years. That is a very long battery life, and that's because they use those larger batteries. It's a CR2012, those batteries that you find in key fobs, you'll find in kitchen scales, etc., those flat button cells. And that's great because it doesn't really make the watch heavy. It's just a wider, thinner battery, but it does give you 10 years of reliable power. Now, in terms of accuracy of this movement, it is rated at plus or minus 20 seconds a month, which, while not as accurate as other quartz movement, is more than adequate. And what you'll find, it actually runs a bit better than what they've stated. So movement wise, I know there's some people that might be disappointed it's not the VH31, and I would have liked to see the VH31, but I don't know what reason they went for this. Is it about the battery life, or is it because it didn't fit into the case? So that's something I don't know. So in terms of the visuals or the aesthetics, you know, does the seconds hand hit every hour marker? You'll find it doesn't. As it goes on the right hand side of the watch face, it seems to be quite out. It does seem to tighten up as it goes past the 6 and coming up to the 11, 12 o'clock. It does get close to the hour markers, but still it doesn't hit any of the hour markers. But that takes literally nothing away from the watch, and it's not something which comes across as a negative to me. So let me get both colorways on wrist. Let's show you how this watch wears. So I am wearing, rather befittingly, my own very special, very limited edition King Seiko. So it is King Seiko Day today. So here's the King Seiko homage from Escapement Time on my 6.5-inch wrist. Now, a couple of you guys will probably be worried, you know, in terms of the small dimensions, how does it fit on a wrist? How does it look? I'm quite surprised it doesn't weigh as small as I'd expect it to. It's only got 41.5mm lug with a 35mm diameter, but it tends to weigh okay. Yeah, the weight is pretty much non-existent. It's 45 grams. But the presence is there. You can see it is legible, and I think it's the right size. You know, a lot of the times, for me anyway, when I look at some of these vintage homages, I don't only want the looks homage, but also like the dimensions. I think something like the 62 Mass, which I always mention, I like the smaller version, but this wears beautifully. The case is stunning, even though it is fully polished. The light reflection of that dial, the hour markers, is just awesome, guys. I gotta tell you, it wears so well, and it's just got bags and bags of charm. Bags and bags of masculine charm, I add. I mean, smaller watches are usually associated with more feminine watches, but this definitely does not look feminine at all. Just pure vintage masculinity. Now with the white and silver, a bit more toned down than the gilt version, obviously, but still just as nice. And I think on the silver handset, you can see that brushing on the hands just a bit more. But yeah, this is more of a daily watch, a bit more toned down. Definitely both watches come across as dress watches, but just they do have that subtle, understated look about them, which I absolutely love. So yeah, both watches were excellent on a 6.5 inch wrist. And of course, that'll be subjective as the wrist size gets bigger, so you really have to consider that. I think it's definitely worth getting this watch in. If you like the King Seiko design, style, I definitely want to get this in my collection. I mean, if the previous one sold as well as it did, I don't see any reason why this one won't sell as good. Now, I haven't mentioned the price, and the price is actually very reasonable. Arguably, it could be cheaper considering it's a quartz watch, etc. But I think looking at the features, the very unique case being produced, I think it's fine. It's £100, so around 100 and what 20 something dollars. I'll put that up on screen. So it's a very affordable watch, but for that you get just so much character from a watch. That box style sapphire crystal, those sharp hands, lovely indices, such a great, understated watch. Comes in two very nice colors. So definitely a no-brainer, guys. Add this to your basket for the March 20th sale. Why not? I don't know how much discount you'll get, but it might be worth waiting for. So that's it from me today, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always, and I'll see you on the next video.